Once upon a time, there was this little band called the Beatles. No, wait. Once upon a time, there was an indie director named Danny Boyle, and he made a great crime thriller. And then he adapted the sprawling short story collection Trainspotting into one of my favorite films of all time. And being a human being and trying all the stuff he could, he made other movies that were good and bad and won awards sometimes. And then he made a movie that sucked me right back into his world. A bizarre fantasy about a freak accident that changes history and leaves apparently only one man alive who remembers the Beatles, Harry Potter, or cigarettes. The hero, a struggling songwriter named Jack, is faced with an ethical dilemma. People think that he's written all of the Beatles' songs himself, and he decides to go ahead and claim them as his own. With a little help from his friends and Ed Sheeran, this makes him a musical phenomenon, the best songwriter of all time. This sounded like a weak premise to me, but sometimes you have a long flight, and you figure watching something you kind of wondered about might pass the time, and this movie was more than okay. It took the greatest rock band of all time and made them better. Well, let me clarify that. We all have our favorite bands. For me, it's The Cure, the Trash Can Sinatras, and early They Might Be Giants. Talking bands here, not solo artists. But if you want to pick one band that had chart-topping hits, frequently brilliant lyrics, influenced generations, and pushed the envelope of music into skiffle, metal, experimental noise, and overproduced epics, the Beatles really cannot be challenged. Which is not to say I love all their output. I love the early rock and roll stuff, I love the seriously whacked out stuff, but I don't have a lot of use personally for their chart toppers for the most part. I know I'm missing out. Millions of fans who love Something, Michelle Mabel, and Hey Jude obviously know better than I do. But that's exactly why this movie yesterday hit home. There's songs in there, the title song most prominently, which have been background noise all my life. The movie strips away the cultural baggage of Beatlemania and classic rock radio, and overfamiliarity in general, and it hands us these songs as if nobody had ever heard them before, and they actually gain power because of the movie world's ignorance. I've never enjoyed The Long and Winding Road so much as I did when the hero, Jack, plays it to one-up Ed Sheeran in a songwriting bet. I'll get back to that in a second. Let me just say first, the movie subverts expectations. Jack's friend and inept roadie, Rocky, never derails Jack's career with his antics, as you'd expect from a rom-com. Kate McKinnon as Jack's manager is awful, but not unrealistically so, and so her comeuppance is merely seeing her sacred wonderkind disappear into his private life with no public humiliation or showdown between the two.
In the name of money, stop! Get back here, you stupid English mother!
And I actually really like the romantic tension with Jack's longtime manager Ellie, played by Lily James, as the girl next door who is too good for him and suddenly isn't good enough.
Someone should probably shag him while they have the chance. Yeah.
But back to the music. The moment I keep coming back to in this movie is the rooftop concert that Jack throws to promote his first album of Beatles covers. He does it to help save the pub where he got his start, but it's obviously a nod to the rooftop concert the Beatles threw in 1969, their final public performance, and the culmination of the Let It Be sessions, now curated by Peter Jackson in his long documentary series Get Back. This scene has everything. Jack's family, who talked over his world premiere of Let It Be in their living room, turn out, along with his loutish friends from the pub who still want him to play his one original hit, the summer song. A mysterious pair of strangers who've been trailing Jack for months appear in the crowd. Jack comes out to massive applause, being clocked for online views by his manager and pumped up by Rocky. And front and center is Ellie, who has just left Jack for their nice guy producer. And here, Hamish Patel makes this movie. He turns Help, a very good, if kind of regular Beatles pop song,
But now these days are gone, I'm not so self-assured.
into a punk rock scream. By the time he's done, you expect broken guitars and fire. In most of this film, I'd say the Beatles' talent is spotlighted by stripping away the studio production, something that helps Long and Winding Road and Yesterday, in my humble opinion. You get to hear the songwriting, which normally you have to shell out many shekels to hear on Beatles Anthology, or Let It Be Naked, or some crazy remaster of the White Album. I'm not trying to turn Phil Spector and the other producers into villains here. Spector doesn't need my help with that. But obviously those albums sold well, and more people love them than I do. Yet listen to John Lennon play Strawberry Fields solo or Across the Universe, and it just feels like we didn't really need all the orchestration to make those songs great. And that's what Danny Boyle's movie does time and again. The Help scene puts the character first. Jack is furious that he passed up his dream girl and even introduced her to the guy she's now with. He secured the ultimate venue for his album release and is hooked into his roots with the local pub and his oldest friends, and he's staring the shallowness of the industry right in the eye, while on the edges the shady Russian and Liverputian who follow him around stare inscrutably and stoically up at him. About the Russian, I'm not going to spoil the movie if you haven't seen it, but in a Putin-filled world, it does feel a little dodgy that Jack plays back in the USSR and Russia, as if restoring the pre-Gorbachev borders were not a real thing. But I digress. Yesterday does the unthinkable. It takes the greatest band of all time, and it makes them better. It takes songs I've always found dull and opens up my cold, black little heart. And it makes the Beatles, who are always punk again.
How we gonna